data centers. And here in the Middle East as well, that market is expected to double by 2030. But all that computing power does come at a price. The facilities use about 10 to 50 times more energy than a typical office building. And half of that, or nearly half, goes into just keeping things cool. So there's obviously a lot of question marks around sustainability. And that is something that experts are discussing this week at the ongoing Data Center Dynamics Connect conference. Joining me now is one of the exhibitors. Todd Grabowski is president of Data Center Solutions at Johnson Controls. Joins me in the studio. Good morning, Todd. How are you doing?
Good morning, Georgia. Doing great.
I hope you don't mind me calling you industry geeky. I do apologize for that.
It is a geeky industry, but it's something that most of us take for granted. We turn on our smartphones. We do financial queries. We turn the power on in our room. We assume the light switch, the power is going to come on. All of that is generated typically through a data center, and it's optimized through that data center. So our lives are intertwined with the ability to process data and then take that for granted in how we live and act in our daily life.
So it really is critical infrastructure in a way that is almost unparalleled, I'd argue.
It is. So,
yeah.
If somebody calls 911 or has an issue on health, how governments secure their borders, how they secure their data, all of that is housed within a data center. So when we talk about something stored in a cloud, the reality is it's stored in a data center. And so we take it for granted, but the UAE is in a very unique position to really grow. They have a few factors that are fueling this growth. So not only do we have obviously the rise in demand, so everyone's querying more, they're doing AI queries, but you have government initiatives around digital, whether it's UAE, Smart 2030, KSA has a Smart Digital Initiative 2030 as well. And then you have, like you mentioned earlier, the accessibility of power. All three of those is what is causing this area to really be in the center of a digital boom.
Why do these sort of data center facilities eat up so much energy? What's the problem with it?
So typically, if you do, in the old days, if you did a query on Google, a typical search, compare that to a search that's now done using AI, that same search query will generate about 10 times more power will be consumed just in that query alone. And so all of the chips, the processors that go into the servers, we'll get a little geeky here for a minute, all of those chips and processors now have gotten very, very large. And in a data center, the two things that are critical, you have to feed them power, so that they consume a lot of power for the chip itself. And then the chips, the processors, as they consume that power, they generate heat. And we have to dissipate and cool that heat. And so now the cooling infrastructure to keep that chip cool now becomes a secondary consumer of power. So when you think about how you optimize that, really the best opportunity to optimize energy efficiency is through the cooling side. The chip is going to continue to consume power. And as the chip gets more efficient, it'll just consume more power and do more queries. And so our ability to optimize how we cool that chip is really the best opportunity to really draw down the power demand of that entire infrastructure.
Are we good at that here in the Middle East? Because obviously we use air conditioning all the time. Have we got good tech here for that?
So we do, and I'm proud to say that this week alone, Johnson Controls launched a new product that generates efficiency of 40% savings over a traditional cooling system. And it does so without utilizing another, obviously, resource in the area, critical resource of water. So we don't use water in that system, so no evaporation of water to cool that data center. And now we're doing it at 40% more efficient than your traditional data center cooling systems. So we've seen that progress, just like technology has progressed. Our ability to cool that technology has also progressed equally as fast.
Will the next generation of data centers be dramatically different to the ones we have now, or realistically, is there not that much innovation being made when it comes to the efficiency of data centers themselves?
No, so as technology innovates, the ability to then process that data and then cool that data and build that infrastructure around it needs to also advance. The way we're building a data center today is much different than how we built it 2 years from now. And I'm very confident 2 years in the future is going to look a lot different. We have to continue to innovate at the speed of innovation, meaning, so the smartphone you buy today is way better than the smartphone 2 years ago. all of that is on the backbone of data and the infrastructure within a data center. So we have to keep innovating on technology to cool that data center as demand continues to rise.
I don't want to do the Middle East out of business because obviously I live here. But isn't it better to put these data centers somewhere that's cold? Because then the air would naturally cool them down slightly.
So there's certainly some advantages to where you place data centers.
Yeah.
But I will tell you from a latency standpoint, it's best to have data centers close to where you have accessible power.
Okay.
And then where you have the need and demand for that power, so that you have that quick latency of speed of when someone queries the data, when they get an answer, that's all measured in latency. So it's good to have data centers within places that have that big AI demand. Remember, I referenced the 3 critical factors here. Demand of usage here in the Middle East is rising drastically. So, and with the accessibility of power and then the government initiatives, all of that is why the Middle East will continue to see great demand for growth, even though obviously it's not a cold climate here.
Yeah, in fact, it distinctly is not cold, although it was cooler today than it has been for the last few weeks, which is good. Todd, it's a great pleasure to have you join us on the agenda. Thank you so much for really clearly explaining what's quite a sort of technical issue and clearly a major... I mean, it is critical infrastructure. There's no other way of looking at it.
It's geeky, but we take it for granted. No question about that.
We do. The geeks will inherit the earth.
Yes.
We always know that. Todd Grabowski, President of Data Center Solutions at Johnson Controls. Thank you so much for your time.